Je te laisserai tes mots en dessous de ta porte, en dessous de la mur qui chante, tout près de la place où tes pieds passent, caché dans les trous dans ton divan. Et quand tu es seul pendant l'instant, embrasse-moi. Quand tu voudras, embrasse-moi. Quand tu voudras, embrasse-moi. Quand tu Howdy, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to take a couple of minutes to let people trickle into the room. So for now, thanks for joining in early. GameStarter, welcome. But for now, we can just enjoy kind of the background music coming from Zoolana. So.
Music has ended. All right.
That was a lovely song. What was that?
It's a French song, actually.
Yeah, what's the name of it?
Yeah, I'm not gonna embarrass myself by saying it.
No, it was a nice touch to it. I think Shiny really liked it. I think he would have wanted to know the name so he can play it to himself later.
I'll just post it in Discord.
Sounds good. GameStarter, how are you?
All right. How about you guys?
Hey, not too bad. Thanks for hopping in.
Yeah, of course. As I say, it was a nice touch. We try to do something similar with the with our spaces and just a little intro music and just kind of sets the tone. You know, that eliminates some of that awkward silence before.
100%. You'd think that by now Twitter would get it together to actually implement some like background music feature, but I guess Elon's busy trying to keep everything together. So
maybe we'll tag Elon on the next post. Come on, let's step it up. You know, it's been 2 weeks. Why isn't this fixed?
Seriously. Probably gonna be a little bit slower now that he's fired half of the force, but we'll see.
That's right.
But I guess we'll still give it a little bit more time. It's only 11:04. We're still pretty early into it. But regardless, we'll have a recording available too.
Sounds like a plan. We'll make sure to be blasted out on ours as well. Get a few more people in here.
Sounds good. We're going to welcome Brick up here, one of the co-founders. Let's see if he can connect. He said he was having issues earlier with his Twitter account, so we'll have to see. Brick, how are you? Perfect. Welcome aboard. So you were having some issues earlier, though? What was that about?
Dude, Twitter is just busted. Elon's just in there pulling out the wires and swapping the colors. Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, Spaces has always been broken, but yeah, I just joined the space and I couldn't leave or request to speak. I was just stuck in purgatory, the circle of hell.
Well, glad we got figured out.
Yeah.
Probably just took a second. And for those unfamiliar, behind the Zoolana account, we have Didi, the other co-founder. Didi, how are you doing?
Doing all right, not too bad.
Good, glad to hear it.
Yeah, could be better, but just gotta keep moving.
It is what it is, isn't it?
You got that right.
I think that's like one of like the biggest things. Like I try to be an optimist by nature because I think life is like far too short for you to be pessimistic about things. I think it's a lot of
Yeah,
a mindset.
I've noticed that about you. Gotta learn that.
I can appreciate that outlook. It's,
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun. 11:07. I guess we'll give it about 3 more minutes. We'll try to get some more social outreach going on around the space. But if we can't garner that much attention during a live session, we'll still, of course, have the recording, like I mentioned. So
yeah,
should be good.
Usually, I notice when we do ours too, the start is always kind of quiet, but then as we get the conversation going, people hop in and get a conversation going. People are a little more interested, so
Yeah.
hopefully I'll pick up a little bit.
That's definitely the best part, right? When you have like a nice conversation going where it's like kind of interesting too, and people kind of trickle in. They're like, "Oh, this piques my interest," and they just stay, and they listen to the rest of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because there's always a little awkward like start, right? The silence at the beginning. It's kind of hard to avoid.
I feel that. One time, we're still getting used to hosting myself. I was like on my phone, of course, and I had a notification pop up, and I went to like I don't know, just click it. I don't know what it was, but it switched my Twitter account to my personal account and completely shut the whole space down. And I was just like, it was just flooded by all the messages. Like, what just happened? Did you just rug? Like, what's going on? Like, just totally ruined everything. I was like, oh man, I guess.
Yeah, I've had those instances before where I'm like crafting a tweet or something on mobile, and I'm like in like the middle of like a deep thread or something, and then I get a ping for a message, and I click it, and it like switches accounts, and I'm like, oh god.
Yeah, they have to get better at saving drafts or something, like auto saves or something, because I've done that countless times too.
Yeah,
writing a caption or something like that.
Yep. It's infuriating when it happens, but I mean, I guess it happens enough. You get used to it, and you stop it.
Yeah. I'm very careful. I don't even like touch my phone when I'm on the spaces now. It's just like too risky.
Yeah,
Too
seriously.
risky.
Yeah, because you never know what's going to set it off, huh?
Right.
And where are you chatting out of this evening or morning, depending on where you are?
So where are we at? So I'm Virginia.
Nice.
Personally, I'm one of the few stateside employees, I guess. So yeah, I'm still trying to decide if I'm a contractor or an employee still with GameStarter, but I basically run a bunch of their communications and have kind of become more of the front-facing person with socials and with media coverage and that kind of thing. So videos and spaces and that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm over here in Virginia. I assume, are you also East Coast, because you guys were talking in EST time? So
No, actually, so I recently just moved to Thailand, so I'm like in their China time right now. Yeah, it's like 11:10 p.m.
Wow. Well, yeah, I guess that it's crazy thinking about opposite side of the world like that, but cool. We are having a live conversation. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting. Like that's like one of the really cool things that I've been like kind of really happy about with the Web3 ecosystem is that like, or even the space in general, is that I've made so many connections with so many people outside of like my own little like sphere of influence that is kind of crazy to me, right? Like you're right, we're having this conversation across the world at different times, but here we are now having this conversation.
No, it's awesome. Yeah, even with like we're doing the weekly Twitter Spaces, and we have new projects coming on every week and talking. I'm just like meeting founders and co-founders and CEOs and experienced devs and all these crazy smart people just like every week. It's just like pretty cool making all these connections and networking and everything like this. Cool opportunities for sure.
Definitely.
Speaking of which, you guys should definitely come on one of our spaces sometime though. We usually do them Wednesdays I guess it'd be normally afternoon here. It's usually like 12, so I guess it'd be midnight for you guys. We could probably try to host it a little earlier though.
Yeah, that'd be really fun.
You guys want to come on and talk about your side of things as well?
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, so I guess we can get started now too. That it's like 11:11.
Yeah,
But I mean, on that note, from what you just mentioned, yeah, that'd be really cool. So I guess we can just chat about that like privately later on. But yeah,
sure.
we'd love to.
Awesome. Very sweet.
Okay, great. All right. Well, like I mentioned, we'll start the show now. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into the audience. For those live individuals out there who had the time to make it here. For everyone else listening into the recording, howdy. But we're gonna get right to it then. So I guess I just want to kind of start off and ask you a question more along the lines of like, can you tell me about kind of GameStarter, what you guys do, and how you guys started?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's going on, guys? My name's Joe. I'm with, I guess my official title is head of communications. So, like I said, I was earlier, I would do a lot of the front facing side of things with, social media, any kind of media coverage, videography, that kind of thing. So, I try to, my job is to communicate as much as possible what we're doing behind the scenes at GameStarter with our community and with the broader ecosystem. So, basically, GameStarter is started as a launch pad. So as you guys might remember from the last bull run, the launch pad was all the rage, right? We had all these pads popping up, and people got really excited about initial offerings and wanting to launch an initial offering, and that's where the crazy gains and the 50x, 100x, 1000x crazy projects coming in, because you can get in really early on. So launch pads became really popular. So guess where GameStarter kind of got started as a launch pad, but has since developed a really robust ecosystem and become a multifaceted and multifunctional project, which we're really excited about. So, firstly, we still have that launch pad as kind of a main component of our whole project. So, when a project wants to raise funds, they need money for development, they need money for marketing, that kind of thing. They need to raise money. Or raise funds for continuing their project. We host basically what we call initial game offerings and initial NFT offerings. Same thing as other initial offerings you've heard of, but people can come in, and it's a way to crowd fund basically your project. So it's an awesome opportunity for, like I said, smaller projects who need exposure, who need money to kind of continue developing and growing. And so we provide that platform for projects to come and launch off of. But since then, we've also kind of developed, like I said, more parts of that ecosystem. I think one of the biggest things that we're doing right now is our in-house development studio. So you guys have heard of Dark Frontiers, hopefully. It's kind of our number one flagship project that's coming. It's in development, but it's we're getting there. We're getting closer and closer. We've got more beta testing coming out soon for some of the public, which we're excited about. But it is our attempt, and it's going to be a really solid attempt at that, to make a really quality blockchain based, we can't say AAA game because I know that's an official rating, but as close to a AAA rating as possible. With the quality graphics, with the smooth gameplay, with the whole, and more than just a pop out a game that's a quick hack and slash, basic or whatever it is, point and click kind of thing. This is a really going to be in-depth ecosystem on its own. It's got its own token. It's got its own marketplace, in-game weapons, suits, and everything. And it's going to be a huge world to explore and fight in. And so, we won't get too much into that. We'll talk about a little bit more about it later, perhaps. But so anyway, we have this in-house development studio with some really talented devs, building out our own games and our own products to launch individually, which we're really excited about. We've got a couple more coming down the road as well in the pipeline. And then, I think the goal is to really build out that and to really start cranking out more projects as a whole there. And then also we are currently an incubator and an accelerator. And so basically those two terms, slightly different, but basically to sum it up, we can help other projects get to where they want to be. So more than just, a project that's ready to go, just wants to come launch on us, they can do that as a launch pad. But from an incubator or accelerator program, if they need help with marketing, with development, with growing awareness, etc., they can come to us, and we basically try to put together a custom or a la carte program solution for what they need to do. Whether it be development or growing their marketing, social media presence, etc. So we kind of custom fit solutions for what they need to do as far as that goes as well. So those are the four kind of main things: Launchpad, incubator, development, studio, and accelerator program that we kind of run currently. And then we currently have some. I guess I'll leave it at that for now. We'll talk about some future plans in a minute. But those are kind of the main things that we do. We've been in business for a little bit over a year now. We just had our 1 year anniversary. What was it in October, I believe? So just at that 1 year anniversary. So pretty excited to be here. Obviously, market conditions could be better, but we ride. We're taking this time to build, and excited for the future.
Yeah, no, great stuff. I mean, you guys seem like a really multifaceted platform. It's really cool to hear that you guys first started off as like an incubator and like kind of developed out your core offerings into something else or something more. Or, I love that kind of stuff, right? Like you guys first started off with this one vision, and then you obviously pivoted and were able to create more along those lines. And I'm excited to see what comes out of, especially your like development studio. But
Yeah,
I guess,
100%.
yeah. But I guess like something that I wanted to ask specifically was, what are some of like the notable partnerships that you've been able to garner and help like kind of grow project wise through the platform itself? Is there anything that comes to top of mind for you?
I'm trying to think in particular what might be at the top of those lists. I mean, obviously, some of the projects that we've been able to kind of right now, the biggest thing is just seeing a bunch of the little smaller projects that have really been able to grow off our platform. So
Gotcha.
we're constantly making partnerships with these smaller games and projects that are really like up and coming projects that are really working hard, especially during the bear market right now. And so right now we're really just focusing on like quality relationships and those partnerships with a lot of smaller groups, I think, at this point. And so I think what's will be the test of time to see the ones that come out kind of in the bear, out of the bear market into the
Yeah.
bull market, which ones of those will be like the really successful, powerful projects. And
Yeah.
I'm confident that like the more projects that we're able to partner with and kind of talk to, the greater likelihood that there's going to be a good number of these solid ones that really like shine above the rest in the next, hype cycle, if you
Gotcha.
will.
Yeah.
But we've had, I'd say, looking back at some of the maybe bigger partnerships, I think BSC News has to be probably one of our bigger like groups. We've really gotten to like, we've had some partnerships with them where it be we were on a couple of their shows, they're on a couple of our shows, but then we also they have a NFT that released that kind of gives you exclusive access with a lot of like their BSC events and exclusive access to a lot of their kind of stuff too. And so we've been able to give perks of the Dark Frontiers and GameStarter to like their NFT collection, for example. So I think, coming up, if you want like a bigger name, I think the BSC News has got to be one of our bigger ones.
Yeah.
And then a lot, like I said, constantly making these smaller partnerships and relationships as well.
Gotcha. No, that's pretty sick. But so going towards more of like the more grassroots, smaller projects that you guys have been working with, then, what do you usually keep an eye out for when partnering with these projects? And like, what are like some of the key factors of like these smaller projects that you've been seeing recently, that you've been working with recently, that you think like makes them stand out and have like the ability to last long term through a bearish market, right? Like you mentioned this earlier, like the sentiment has definitely shifted within the ecosystem to be that of a more like pessimistic outlook. So like, what
Right.
are some of the things that you look for specifically in these projects that you think like this has the potential to have some longevity, this has the potential to build through the bear? Like, what is your
Yeah, 100%. So obviously, we are open to all types of projects. So that's kind of another way that we've been growing. Is initially it was more just like smaller games coming to our platform and launching, but we've grown in the types of projects that have been able to launch off our platform and that we've been able to kind of help, whether it be incubate, accelerate, or even just straight up launch. And that's gone from, like I said, smaller, basic mobile game to even more infrastructure projects. We have a marketing and KOL solution that has launched off our platform, Colnet. So like, there's more projects that are coming on, which is kind of cool, I think. So the fact that we can kind of, any kind of project at this point can really come to us and have a potential to launch with us, I think is really cool. Things that I personally am not picking, projects that are going for, but things that I know the team is looking at for a longevity standpoint are projects that are at least fleshed out, that have a good original design and idea behind them, based on our tools and things that we're able to give to the project. The state of the project doesn't have to be complete, right? There can be some gaps. There can be some things that whether it be we're about to launch the project or they need some help getting to the finish line. The state of the project itself, we definitely takes into consideration, but we really want to see a good idea, obviously, behind it initially, whether it be original or something, a spin-off of something that's worked in the past. We also really like to see, obviously, the community behind things. So we have, there are certain metrics that we look for from a social media presence standpoint and engagement standpoint. So, if a project's coming to us with a strong community and, a very excited base, basically backing what they're doing, that is a huge, obviously, benefit for us. And then it's something that I'm really bullish about with projects in general and look for is a project that's going to have a strong roadmap for the future. So too many projects and something that's feasible, right? So there's projects that kind of promise the world only to really just are trying to attention grab, right? And so they say, oh, for the next 2 years, we've got TV shows coming out and comic books and games and this and that and all these huge milestones that, whether it be a short amount of time or a long amount of time, just like are over promising and then end up under delivering. So we like to see a realistic roadmap, but also a team that we know is going to continue to develop and continue to build out. So that's one thing that we focus on, even like our in-house games, right? With Dark Frontiers, it's not a game that's just dropping and releasing and then here it is, play it, have fun, enjoy. It's more of a, we're going to be releasing, the first world, and then, there's going to be another planet, and there's going to be more to the storyline, and then this whole, world of lore is going to open up on this side of the galaxy, right? So it continues to be developed, and there's a longevity, to the project as a whole. So between, I think, like a feasible and exciting roadmap, I think is important. The overall community and sentiment base, and then obviously the idea itself, and then of course that and probably potentially the most important piece, that team, getting a good sense of the team, feeling them out, making sure they have an understanding of what they're kind of getting into and that they have a good plan going forward. Because obviously it's one thing to bet on the horse, but you bet on the jockey itself to really carry the team forward and to be successful.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's all very important points to look at, especially when like assessing and evaluating a project, right? At the end of the day, you want to make sure that they have the ability to fulfill their promises, that they aren't just all empty promises, and that they have a community that's behind them, that's backing them, and they have competent founders. Those are like some of my own personal key indicators too when I look at investing in projects beyond simply just Web3 gaming. But I mean, of course, it expands well into even like this type of structure. Where you're onboarding
Absolutely.
projects. Yeah, 100%. So then, like, what are some of the red flags that you like note then that kind of like dissuade you from wanting to onboard a project?
Like you said, it's almost from a similar metric perspective of is this a game I'd want to invest in as well,
Yeah.
right? It's not just, if it's not a game I want to invest in, it's not a game that I want to see on the platform itself. And
Yeah.
I think a big one is going to be going back to that unrealistic expectations and promises, right? So a roadmap that is very attention grabby, right, with things that might not even relate to the project.
Buzzwords,
there's a lot of things. Buzzword, yeah, absolutely. There's certain buzzwords, there's certain things that it's like, we have this plan for the future, but that doesn't even relate to the actual project.
Yeah.
It doesn't, if this is a game, why are you opening up pop-up stores across, like for merch, like that's not to me a project that I can get excited about, because I know that's more of just, the end of the day, trying to fill out a roadmap. Right.
Yeah.
There's that. I think there is, I get nervous when I see projects that are basically just a straight up copy, of something else.
Yeah, a derivative.
Obviously, a derivative where you're not really adding anything to what you're doing itself.
Yeah.
And then I think a big red flag too is team experience, right? We want to
Mm-hmm.
see teams that have, whether it be development experience, marketing experience, leadership experience, and understanding what it is for blockchain. We have a lot of people coming in from like, Web 2, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But then also, like, if you don't have someone that understands blockchain and NFT and true integration, um, how are you going to know how to navigate these markets when if you can't even define what an NFT is, right? So,
Yeah.
making sure that those teams have the proper experience behind them is definitely a huge one for me as well.
Yeah. So then you mentioned earlier that a little bit earlier actually that you guys kind of like are open to anyone reaching out and applying to be onboarded. Like, what does that general process look like? And then like, how many of these projects that like come in and ask to be a part of GameStarter actually make it through the entire process, right? Be that like from an incubating standpoint or an accelerator standpoint. Um, yeah.
Sure, absolutely. So we've actually made the process even simpler, I would say. So that we just actually got a little revamp to the website. It's looking really sharp. I am looking at
Mm.
it now to make sure that I can make sure I give the right information to you guys as far as
Yeah.
listing. But so all you have to do now is go to the services tab and hit list your project, and a
Mm.
whole nice little form comes up. You fill it out. You talk about. Actually, can run you through it right now. You give your basic information, what the game, what your project's about, your date for your initial offering, how much you're trying to raise, list of backers, that kind of thing. So basically just run through the whole project and what you're trying to submit. You submit it, and then our internal team reviews it and kind of goes from there. So it's hard to give a number at this point. We've been becoming more selective because
Mm-hmm.
we have actually, it's been quieter in some ways, but at the same time, people are also really looking for money at this point. So there's a lot of people looking for more fundraising and crowdfunding like this. So as we have become bigger in the space, and as we have got more attention, and we've seen some projects have some really good success, and as people have, like I said, budgets have gotten tighter and people are looking for more exposure, we've gotten more and more projects that are kind of filing in and submitting, to launch on the GameStarter platform. So I would say that as we continue to grow, it will become more and more selective, especially as we start. I think as we see more money come back into the market, especially, we're going to start seeing it even become more and more selective from a GameStarter perspective,
Mm.
from a platform selection process, just because. There's only so many spots that we can kind of fill in. We want to make sure, we want a lot of projects to come and a lot of projects to launch. But at the same time, if we're too open with it, then of course things start falling through the cracks, or you end up having, you can't guarantee the success of every project, but you do want to curate a higher tier list of projects.
Yeah.
And then as you see more and more success, and as we continue to grow our ecosystem and platform, you're going to have more attention and more projects wanting to get in on the action as well. So I don't have particular numbers as far as that goes right now, but to my knowledge, it is getting more selective as we continue to grow.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, right? You want to make sure that like the things that you're actually promoting within like especially a bearish market where people's like resources and attention are like very much more heavily scrutinized, where those projects actually have value. So that makes sense.
No, 100%.
Yeah. Well, then, so you guys are a chain agnostic platform, right? Meaning that like you guys don't specifically focus on just one chain and instead are open to like multiple blockchains for games to be developed upon. Like, so do you, right?
Yes. So
Yeah.
we currently we have a lot of games, a lot of projects that are developed on Binance. We've also opened to
Oh,
Solana, which will have to be, we'll see going forward how how that is going to play out. I guess with the recent debacle with FTX and everything, if if the Solana chain is actually going to survive, it's kind of a, I don't know. I think everyone's kind of up in the air as far as what's going to happen with the future of that. But BSC has, I think, been our most popular one. So between BSC, Ethereum, and Solana have been like the three chains that have been most developed on within the ecosystem. But always looking, as more solid chains come out and we're able to integrate with more, I believe it's going to be part of the ecosystem to continue growing those blockchain availabilities within our platform.
yeah, no, 100%. That's actually interesting. I didn't know that you guys were mainly on the Binance chain. I mean, what's the differences in the projects that you've seen on Binance versus on like I guess what you just mentioned with like Solana as something that you're more skeptical about. What's the difference in the game content from either ecosystem?
That's interesting. I think a lot of it becomes like just general location. We do have a decent presence within like Asia and the Middle East, and I know that's
Mm.
definitely Binance ends up becoming a more of a dominant, I think, chain for development as far as that goes. Just with especially the it's cheap, it's fast, it's been reliable, and like I said, it'll be interesting to see going forward if with the CZ takeover now, how that chain is going to continue to fare. I think it might even continue to grow with more dominance at this point. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
as people maybe look for more more trust, trustworthy change. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I can't say I can give specific differences as far as like types of projects or games at this point between different blockchains. I think it's more just everyone's kind of just based
The
has to
sentiment.
choose, and has to choose the blockchain that they think fits their project the best.
Yeah.
So I think it's still up in the air. But I'm curious, and I know you guys are with Solana. So do you have a concern about the Solana chain going forward at all, with how things have played out, or do you think it's going to be okay going forward?
So I personally think that there's like a common misunderstanding behind like involvement with FTX and Solana. I
Sure.
think that people have kind of oversold the news, simply believing that FTX has had more of an impact on Solana than
Yeah.
what's understood, right? Because at the end of the day, FTX had no involvement in Solana's core code
Right. Right.
and underlying structure of it itself. And the only real thing that they had on top, or any real involvement that they had with Solana, was having a huge investment at the beginning and a certain allocation of tokens. But if individuals really think about that from a tokenomics perspective, they'll note that um, with FTX going through all of these legal battles into the future to kind of pay back investors, the tokens are going to be locked up until. So let me restate that. So the way that the Solana tokens are held now with FTX, they're like invalidators, and so they're actually locked up and are going through kind of like this cycle where after they get unlocked, they're going to be held by whatever entity is like under control of FTX's like balance sheet, and then they're also going to be liquidating those assets to pay back the investors to try to get back that like I think $9 billion in value that has been like laundered or lost, quote
Right.
unquote
Crazy.
lost, right?
Crazy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so if anything, that's going to take a very long time to actually happen, and so that's like a large amount of tokens within the Solana ecosystem withheld from being redistributed back into the ecosystem, and so from a tokenomics
Nice.
perspective, is a positive.
Yeah.
Um,
No, that makes sense.
I think the
Yeah.
biggest, yeah,
Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say that I think that the biggest implication around kind of where FTX might have had more of a negative impact on the actual like Solana protocol would be within DeFi, because the Almada and a couple of other sister projects of FTX had hands in kind of helping develop some of those protocols as DeFi protocols. But that still, again, has nothing to do with the underlying core structure of Solana itself. And
Right.
so,
Right.
from a base protocol standpoint, it's still sound. So I honestly think that like I have a lot of faith for Solana going into the future, and plus they recently just announced a partnership with Google, which is like a huge kind of benefit for the ecosystem.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Well, and yeah, that was definitely obviously not a shot at you guys at all. It was more
No, no,
about
100%.
the concern for, like you said, the overall. I think the sentiment would be
Yeah,
the biggest fear with people, and just saying, oh, like you said, misunderstanding the relationship between
yeah.
FTX and Solana, and having that fear. So hopefully they're able to continue boosting morale around the community, and showing those partnerships like that. And continue building out that trust. I think they didn't, obviously Solana didn't do anything to lose that trust, but hopefully they can rebuild that kind of faith within the project once FTX is kind of pushed out.
Out of the
I
picture, yeah.
absolutely.
I see. I think
Tired of.
that's.
Yeah, almost like
No,
tired of
go.
hearing about it. He's like every tweet, every video now, just
Yeah,
the same face over and over. It's like we got to get rid of this. He's getting so much attention at this point. We just got to erase him from the space and move on, and let's continue
yeah.
to build.
Well, I think that's just like I was actually like looking into an article recently, talking about how like the internet has kind of like pigeonholed a lot of like users' views into like what they believe in. I guess like you're being fed the information that you want to see, and so like
Yeah,
since we're so heavily involved in the ecosystem, like we on Solana see it as more of like we kind of understand the real differences where people outside of the Solana ecosystem who don't necessarily spend like every day within it wouldn't really see that stuff, right? Like you
right.
guys see it from an outside perspective, like similar to what we've been seeing recently with like all the FTX news coming out from mainstream media, the Wall Street Journal, that kind of stuff, has painted this man as like a positive entity, an altruistic individual who wants to do good and who just happened to make a mistake. When in reality, he's probably just a bad actor who wanted to like fatten his pockets, right? Like you
Yeah,
don't really see the whole story because we're not really involved in it, and we're so ingrained in our own like little microverses that it's like hard for us to look at the bigger picture sometimes. So yeah,
right. No, absolutely.
I think it's just a very interesting thing about like mainstream media or just and media in general now in like 2022.
Oh no, 100%. It's like you said. It's you hear the news you want to hear, unfortunately, but in the positive side of things, you can find if you can find the right communities and find the right people to listen to. You
Hmm.
also are able to kind of control what you hear is from a good perspective too. So
Yeah, I mean, so like speaking of like kind of a community, what have you guys been doing at GameStarter to kind of like help kind of grow your guys' community and like I guess brand recognition and interest in that regard?
sure. So I think there's a few things that stick out the most. First of all, it's been really important for us to continue up with like our social media presence. So
Mm.
while there definitely is like not as much excitement around the space currently, we've been really trying to like continue pushing media out, pushing content out. I still do. Like if you go to our YouTube channel, we've got a weekly update every week. I don't miss it. And talk about what's been, try to give a little market update. I try to give behind the scenes at what's going on behind the scenes at GameStarter and what we're building, what we're growing, what's coming up soon. So it's really been trying to have that communication and transparency is really important for us while we're doing this. And we've had comments directly about that. While we don't maybe get as much attention on those posts, the ones that are watching it are like excited that we're still here and that we're still like
Hmm.
not just radio silence like a lot of projects I feel like have gone quiet. So very consistent with posts, with updates and that kind of thing. We're still, like you mentioned, the partnerships are really trying to continue um, with all our partnerships and growing those relationships. So whether it be the weekly Twitter Spaces, bringing on more projects for our platform, various partnerships or giveaways and that kind of thing. So we're really just trying to build those relationships during this time has been big. And then I think ultimately just focusing on really building and delivering. So
Mm.
we have, like I said, Dark Frontiers is a huge project that's in the works. We have, I believe, actually next week we're supposed to be able to get a couple people are going to be able to play, and then January is supposed to be like a bigger date for people to actually get their hands on and play another version of it. So that's going to be cool. So
Nice.
really just focusing, and we have the website update. We have a few updates on our couple of our smart contracts. So between the staking and initial offering process that we think is better for the overall community. We have a couple protection funds that we've implemented and like refund structures for if a project is to have some sort of fall below its initial offering price. There's some protection measures for our community, that kind of thing that we've been able to implement. So really just focusing on developing the project as a whole and continuing to build right now. So like I said, even if we're not getting the excitement and hype that we think we'd like to have, focusing on like actually building the product and the development of the whole of our whole ecosystem, so that when we do start getting the attention back in the markets, we are able to really like, look at all the stuff if someone were to turn off the computer last year and then come back next year, you see these 2 years of like, all right, these guys were busy, these guys were hard at work and actually like putting in the groundwork. I think that's going to really pay off. Even if it's not paying off right this second, it's going to pay off when the excitement comes back to the markets.
Yeah, 100%, right? This is a time, especially in the bearish market, that people should be building through it, so that when people do return, like you just mentioned, there's going to be a platform for them to use or something for them to be excited about. So,
absolutely,
it makes a lot of sense. I mean, so then, like, let's talk more about the game that you guys are working on. Then, like, how long has that been under development for? And like, you were mentioning that you're getting pretty close to allowing some, what I'm assuming is alpha access.
Yeah. So we've had we did a big a big influencer stream, which was cool. This was I'm trying to remember when that was now. Earlier this year, there was a big influencer stream. So we actually had several bigger names that actually getting on, like downloading a alpha version of the game and actually playing it and streaming it to their followers and community. It's kind of a cool opportunity. I got to be the first one to live stream the game, which was kind of dope. So I got on the Dark Frontiers Twitter account and live streamed from my computer. So that was kind of exciting. I'm not a streamer personally, but it was cool to be able to do that. Kind of lay claim to that one. And yeah, I actually just saw the post earlier. So yeah, November 25th through 27th, there's some exclusive access for Dark Frontiers for active community members. And then in January is going to be a limited time early access for anyone. So basically in the game, you have these spacesuits that basically give you various benefits, and that's kind of allows you to play the game. So if you own this NFT, you can have the spacesuits. You're also going to be able to like rent the NFT if you need to, that kind of thing. So there's going to be more ways to play the game if you don't own the NFT itself. But for those who do own the NFT as the spacesuit NFT, there's going to be some early access for all our suit holders. So that's going to be a cool benefit for our NFT holders. So I think that's going to be an exciting one for a lot of people to get involved in.
So can you give me kind of like a setting and theme for like the actual game then? Like laid out a picture for me so I can kind of like envision what kind of game this is.
Absolutely. So so like I said, the game is Dark Frontiers, and basically it's a I guess the perspective is third person shooter, where you're on the moon. You've got you're in the outpost, and you basically got to go across the moon, and you're exploring. There's all these mysteries. There's aliens. There's all these things you're trying to uncover and explore, basically. So there's kind of a couple different components of it. There's lots of resources that you're actually going to be able to. There's different tools you use to abstract resources, which can be, have in-game benefits for upgrades and that kind of thing. But you can actually end up converting them later to Dark Frontiers token, the in-game token itself, and actually play to earn, make a little money on it as well if you're collecting and doing resources. But then obviously the big thing is the fighting. So there's going to be there's kind of a more campaign story mode where you're going through and killing monsters and exploring and trying to uncover some of these mysteries around. There's all these ancient structures that you're trying to explore and figure out, and there's different biomes. There's the ice biome, there's desert biome, there's something called the gore biome. So there's all these different structures and areas with all different types of visuals, and it's really beautiful. They've done a really good job of visually with a lot of the graphics and the gameplay. So I'm really excited because, like I said, we're just testing alpha still, and it is looking awesome. Huge upgrade since the influencer stream. So by the time the full version comes out, I'm really excited to see what it's going to look like from there. There's also going to be there's co-op mode, so you can actually link up with your friends and play, and do the campaign, do the exploration. It's kind of open world / campaign. There's different missions and stuff, but you can actually link up with the party mode, and there's actually going to be like a battle royale as well mode. So you're going to be able to link up and fight it out with people from around the world with it too. So there's going to be several different ways to like really interact with the game. There's also we had like a land sale, so you can actually like own a plot of the moon, which is growing, can grow crystals and earn some stuff from there. And you're going to be able to build a base, and so there's going to be a lot of components to it, which is going to be really, really cool. So like I said, the visuals are really looking good. I think that's something that's really lacked so far with a lot of the games that have come
Mm-hmm.
out is just like the gameplay and the visuals and everything has just been really lackluster. So it is taking. I will say that it's taking a little longer than we initially expected. We were hoping, but we revamped our roadmap recently, earlier this year, and mixed reviews about it because we wanted to, but we realized that if we really want to put this game out, we want it to be as good as we can really make it. So
Yeah.
it was going to take a little bit longer to really. I mean, people people don't understand how long it takes to develop quality games, and these games that are in production with, on Sony, Microsoft, and everything, that it's years and years and years of hardcore development, and they usually have something to build off of. This is literally built from scratch development, and we're trying to. And everyone's expecting a AAA quality game. It takes time. It's going to take time. So we're really excited at how fast things have been moving and where we are. And I think once it gets released to the public, it's really going to make waves within the blockchain gaming space for sure.
I mean, 100% right. Like that's at the end of the day, like what I think there should be more of a precedent set around realizing how long it actually takes to create a sound product.
Yeah.
The whole space moves in such an accelerated rate, like from attention to even development, that people forget that like really shipping like what could be touted as a AAA title takes a lot of time.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm just hoping that as we get out of this whole like bearish market, people will realize that and have that more of a concrete idea in their head. So,
Well, and I think it's hurt the space too, right? At the end of the day, because
mm-hmm.
there was kind of a road. There's a fork in the road for us, right? A couple, last year, for example, we're looking at it. It's like we can either ship this game now, we could put it out and say let's play this game, but it is not going to be ready, right? It's going to get some hype for a few months, and then we hit the bear market. Will people still be playing it? I don't know. Like, was it ready for development? Was it really ready for release? And were we delivering a game that was going to be played for months, years, hopefully decades after? Or is it going to be a game that kind of like, sure, got some attention, got people excited about, and then kind of flops later, rather than, okay, we'll take the hit, take the heat, and not release maybe during the excitement of the bull market. Let's wait a little bit and make sure we can really develop a solid project and put out a game that people are going to absolutely love when it comes out, and that's going to pay off kind of in the long run. So to me, it was a long-term play,
100%.
because we've had so many projects and so many, whether it's games or NFT projects or whatever, where they're just literally someone took a week to scratch some code into a game and do and fundraise it and make $1 million and then rug it. Like that's what we've seen so much. Or like here's a game. People are like, wait, I paid how much for this? Pixelmon, right? I paid how much
The
for this?
character.
And right, like you want to talk about like a rush to release and develop and making all this hype, and then just a complete, that's what's, I feel like, another thing that's really crushed this market is just these projects rush, gold mine, looking to make a quick buck, a week in development, and then here's our product. That's not sustainable, right?
No, it's not. I mean, that's like one of the things that was like really infuriating me before when I would like come onto the scene and I would check out like projects developing within the ecosystem. I would see so many of like the same looking projects, derivatives of each thing, flipping for like whatever price, and like no one was actually looking at like the core fundamentals behind them. And I think that's like a huge thing to do with the way people kind of expect outcomes within the ecosystem. At least when we were in a bullish market, it was so easy for projects to make like 100 times X or like 10 times X or like any times X, right?
And for nothing, right?
Yeah, for literally quite nothing. I mean, like a lot of these projects before, at least these NFC projects, were using like funding that they would get from their initial mint as like crowdsource funding for the potential to develop something. And I think that was like pretty ass backwards for how things were going, and it really did set a bad sentiment within the space because then people were expecting that for like the rest of the projects dropping, and there was no higher standard.
Did we just get rugged here?
No, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm so
Rick.
Okay, I'm not sure what just happened to Spiz.
Did I cut out?
Oh my god, love Twitter.
I can hear him still, I think. He's...
Oh really, dude? Okay, sorry guys. I'll
you're good. You're good.
No, it's all good.
Didi, am I good? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's happened to me too before. Where I can't hear one person, but everyone else can, and it's weird stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, Twitter is really just falling
I
apart.
think there's something wrong with the space, though. It's super weird that our audience are getting kicked out. I'm seeing out in our Discord that people are getting kicked out for some reason.
Getting kicked out? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Being
Yo, Elon, what's happening,
being
man?
suppressed. And then I'm looking.
That's all right. We mostly get our views and recordings through people who listen to it afterwards as well. So I think that's fine.
Yeah, I'm not worried.
That's still crazy,
Yeah,
though.
just building on your point before when you're talking about how long it actually takes to build a game. Like, we relate so much to it, and we've been having that conversation because we've been hosting Twitter Spaces with a few games by now, multiple actually, and we've been talking about with each other, and we're kind of banding together, to kind of talk shit onto the general audience that they don't understand how long it actually takes to build a game. But through no fault of them, they could have done the research, but through no fault, they are not in the industry, and we've gotta let them know by having these conversations, these upfront conversations. And it's kind of interesting to me that even with these public information, people are still expecting the impossible, I guess, because of how fast the space actually moves. I do generally agree on what you said just now as well in terms of social presence. I honestly think that showing up every day, showing up constantly is going to be the key in order to reap the benefits when the market turns for the better, or even when shit blows over. Because yeah, dude, we've had this conversation in the previous Twitter space, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Spizzup. We actually talked about how our post saw like a downtick in engagement because of the whole FTX saga. And then scrolling through the whole Twitter feed, it's apparent that everyone's attention is on the FTX saga. So anything that you post in relate to the FTX thing, you'll probably get a ton of engagements. And that's almost been proven to be true because Brick actually he posted something about FTX, like SBF playing League of Legends, and his post got, dude, I don't know, like 2,000 to 6,000 likes or something.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. And yeah, it's tested and proven. And we just hope this whole fucking shit blows over quickly, and so the attention span can come back to us who are actually building and sharing things that are actually exciting.
Yeah.
I'm also kind of curious
Absolutely.
as well. I've never heard of Dark Frontiers, but I just checked it out while you were in deep into the conversations with Spizzup. What's like yeah, I don't know how deep you are into game development in terms of the process, but how, like, what would you say is the most hard thing in game development in your opinion, while building on the blockchain?
So you're right. I am not particularly involved in the development process of things, but from my personal experience and from what I would what I've noticed the most is I think it's really hard to balance tokenomics of the ecosystem, right? So we have we have the game token that gets you access to like more um, the initial offerings and that kind of thing on our project. And we have Dark Frontiers, which is its own project, which has Dark Token. But then we're also we don't need people spending gas and making these transactions in and out of the game every time they want to do any interaction. So now there's a Dark Frontiers, there's a core credit it's called, which is like an in-game off-chain token, right? So, and then you're going to be able to harvest crystals and these different resources, and they're all got a balance in your upgrades. So, and this is not it obviously making me sound like I'm dissing Dark Frontiers, but it's more about the complexity of the ecosystem, I think, and making sure to balance how to balance it all. And I think so far, the developers have done a fantastic job at doing so. But I think bringing all of those to giving a strong utility to the in-game token, finding solutions for people to interact quickly and not have every blockchain. Like I said, every time you harvest a resource or make a trade in the shop or buy something, you have to go through this whole deep process of doing so, and then coming off the blockchain, in the blockchain, making sure the valuation is balanced, that kind of thing. I think that to me is one of the most difficult parts. I think kind of creating that balanced ecosystem from a valuation and tokenomics standpoint, and as well as providing true utility with those in-game tokens and currencies, and kind of balancing all of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, almost definitely. I think yeah. Is your game actually open world, or is it like a find a game, go into the game, and then exit the game, things like that?
Yeah, so it'll be it's an open world that you'll be able to explore, and you can join with other people to explore. So there'll be certain aspects that you're going with other people, and certain aspects that are going to be alone. So if you, depending on what your, I guess, definition of open world, I believe it can fit as an open world experience. There's no here's level 1, I'm going to level 1 and start this. I start my outpost, and I can go 360 degrees outside and just start going to the next to another part of the game, if that makes sense. And then there's going to be different modes that you can kind of join. Like I said, there's going to be a multiplayer mode where you can kind of like a 8-on-8 or a battle royale style, various modes where you're actually going to be engaged like that, or more of an open world adventure story mode.
Okay. Just so for my understanding, if there's a game out there that you could compare yourself to, what would it be?
Oof, that's a really good one. So I'm trying to think of something that's gonna be the same.
It could be a mix of both games. It's fine if you have two in mind.
Um,
Yeah, or just something similar to that. When you were first playing that instance, you thought to yourself, "Oh, this feels like."
Sure. So, like, you can almost think of an open world, Zelda or Elden Ring, like where you're a single character, and you're kind of have several things to explore and find. But you're going to also have modes where you're going to be able to more COD or Halo style, like get into specific lobbies and actually like battle it out. So I think there's going to be kind of a combination between something like that, where it's like an Elden Ring adventure mode, story mode, where co-op, and then mixed with kind of a multiplayer, shooter kind of game. I would say those are kind of somewhat comparable, at least from a stylistic and mode game point.
Okay, so is it a MMORPG?
Yes, there's going to be aspects of that. So you're going to have roles that you're going to be leveling up. So your character has a whole bunch of characteristics that you get better at as you level up as you use them. So whether it be your shotgun, your laser rifle, your sword, your pickaxe that you use to mine. So in that aspect of it, there's the character level up. When you go to play a specific instance, it's not like there's going to be 10,000 people playing in this one instance of the game. But you'll be able to kind of lobby up with other people and explore the same world together.
So
So
there's different servers to it. That's how your games
So,
capacity.
to my knowledge, there are different servers to it. Yes.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes total sense. Yeah, dude. I think in general, a MMORPG open economy is already hard enough to balance as it is. Once you involve blockchain, it gets like the layer just adds up, and there's more dimensions to it. And I feel like unless you actually have battle tested um, players, like, have you heard of the company called Machinations?
Yes, I've heard of them. I'm not sure that I've played anything with them.
Yeah, so Machinations is actually a company that actually helps you plan out your tokenomic. So they actually run simulations on how a player would act that goes through your economy, and they kind of battle test your economy before your game goes live. Maybe you guys should have a chat with them. Like personally for Zulana, balancing, like, this is one of the things that I think is one of the hardest as well. We have started planning out the economy for Zulana, and as a forex game, the economy is very, like, it has a lot of depth. And in terms of the things that we think of, and the way to monetize it, I think it adds like a whole other spectrum of things that we have to consider into, in terms of the factors that comes into play. And yeah, at this point we're honestly not even really thinking about token right now, although we do have a pretty fleshed out plan for what kind of use case that the token is going to have inside the game. But until we've actually battle tested out, I don't think the token is ready to be live inside Zulana.
Yeah, well, I think it makes sense to do it that way, though, right? Like and that's kind of been our idea too with gameplay first. Like what blockchain is almost forced into these games unnecessarily, when in reality it's to be a tool to improve the game experience, right, and to offer more options and availability to the game. Um, people are kind of just taking a game, shoving a blockchain in it, an unnecessary token, and saying, "Here's our game. Here's our Web3 game." It's like, well, you didn't even need to do that. Like, why did why did you even put a blockchain, integrate with blockchain in the first place, right? So I think having that gameplay first approach, and then saying, how can we improve this game through blockchain and through a token? I think that's a much better approach to that for sustainability and like actually quality development. But
Yeah, almost definitely. I think we're seeing a new wave of blockchain games. Like, we've been chatting up with a few other projects as well, and you can kind of see in the things that they're delivering, in terms of their social media, and as well as when you have a chat with them in terms of their game design philosophy and everything about it. I think game developers or gaming projects in the blockchain space are slowly and more, they're definitely pivoting more into gameplay first. Although that should be one of the obvious things, because after all, you're trying to build a game, and people play games for entertainment and not necessarily for the money. And I think
right.
kind of what actually fueled that blockchain hype for gaming was, yeah, people in third world countries are really tight for cash in a sense during that
Right.
COVID pandemic, and that sort of fueled the rise and fall of Axie.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. And at the end of the day, if you have a game that focuses on just money making, then you're going to attract investors, not gamers, too, right? So, if you want a sustainable game economy, you need gamers, and you want people that actually are passionate about what they're doing versus just, I'm just here to make some money. Like that's not how you develop a culture and a sustainable economy, in my opinion. Obviously, we want everyone to come play and have fun and enjoy it, and the money making aspect of things is cool. But if you are just attracting people, investors, though, they're basically I saw this interesting dilemma where a lot of these projects were doing that. They were attracting people with money, so the investors come in and basically price out all the gamers that actually would play and appreciate the game for what it is, and actually build the sustainable economy for the game. So it's this ironic dilemma that the token almost killing the game in a lot of circumstances. So we have to be careful with that and how that's balanced and attract the right game first community. So definitely an interesting perspective.
Yeah, I feel like there's always a balance to strike, especially when it comes to, you know, the front of user acquisition. I feel like there's a way for us to prioritize how we should acquire users to our advantage, especially when we're in blockchain, where community is kind of a big band of uh like driver in terms of how you should get the word out for the adoption for your game. But yeah, there's a fine balance between crashing your economy to achieve that, because after all, you spend so much time building this game, you don't want to rush to crash it as soon as it comes out. So almost definitely there's something to think about there in terms of user acquisition.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. But yeah, no, 100%. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, this is a bigger topic that we can go into it. But I'm really curious about Dark Frontier, and I just do have some other questions. It seems like you guys do have a lot of game assets fleshed out, and you mentioned that your alpha is launching next week or something, if I'm not wrong. How much money have you guys actually spent in game development so far?
Oof. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to pass that question to someone a little above me. I honestly couldn't tell you. I can tell you that we've expanded our team pretty significantly. So that's kind of been one of our things. As a game starter, as like a whole ecosystem has grown a ton. So I know we've been definitely onboarding more developers because, like I said, we've kind of had this increased scope of work for the game itself. So yeah, in the first year, we went from 10, a team of 10 at GameStarter to a team of 50. And that includes obviously all different aspects from all the different areas, but many of those were straight hires to a development team itself. So we've definitely increased the amount of people working on it from a media presence, from a development standpoint. I don't have a number. Unfortunately, I don't have the numbers for the Dark Frontiers game itself right now, but it's definitely been a work, and we've definitely been hitting it hard and increasing the team size specifically to develop it more quickly and more fully and sustainably.
Yeah, no worries. So just as a ballpark estimate for the number of people who are specifically in game development, how many people do you think that is in GameStarter, just focusing on the game development? Like, taking aside from market presence, taking aside from marketing, just game development standpoint. So I'm talking about artists, game designers, economists, planner, and producer, things like that.
Yeah, I think we're around 8 or so. I don't remember the latest number, but because you've got the actual developers, we have a specific we've got the sound of actual sound creators. We have a lore writer. So we've got a whole little team at this point. I think because I said 50 for the whole company at this point, maybe even more at this point. I think we've been hiring more. That was a couple months ago. We had 50, so I think we even have more at this point. So I want to say between 8 and 10, I think at this point, like focused on actual game development and the actual creation and that kind of thing.
Jesus, 8 to 10 people for an MMORPG?
Now, that's probably talking about including more than just the actual game development, as a product as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's kind of like to depend on where you're drawing your lines and that kind of thing. Unfortunately, I'm actually not like in the office itself. So I, our devs are definitely a little more shy, and so we, like I said, they're in the office working hard for it for sure, but I don't have a ton of interaction directly with them as a whole. But once the product comes out, I'll definitely be on it and showing a lot of the gameplay itself. So yeah.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. We have a few back end and front end devs as well who always doesn't have their camera on because they're shy.
and that's kind of what allowed me to get this position, right? So it's no one wants to be on the camera and talk too much. So that's, you find someone who can talk and find someone who can show their face on camera, and here I am. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for answering the questions. I think we're gonna wrap it up now because we've already overshot an hour. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, awesome. So for people who are listening through the recording, do remember that our Zany list is still live. So just a quick background on what Zany list is. We're trying to curate one of the most comprehensive Web3 gaming community, and GameStarter has, we're honored to announce that, GameStarter is actually a part of Zany list already. And so for those who are interested in becoming one of the people in the community, make sure you check out Zany list and apply on the pinned tweet that we have on Zoolana.
Alrighty, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and have a good rest of your evening or day. And GameStarter, thanks for hopping and joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having us, guys, and looking forward to hopefully further conversations in the future. Appreciate the spotlight.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you, man.